everybody. Rob Kosberg here with Bestseller Publishing. Great to be with you as always. Today, I'm diving back into actually some things that I learned from my time in real estate, and I've actually kind of molded and am applying them a little bit differently to my business. And I think this will help you to do the exact same thing. And I call this the 3 phases of perpetual marketing and growth for your business. Now, of course, I'm going to take a few minutes and actually share my screen and share with you what my thoughts are on these 3 phases. You'll have to adapt this information, of course, to your own business, but I'll give you some examples of how we do some of this well and maybe how we don't do some of it well, and we're working on doing it a little bit better. Because if you master these 3 phases, then you'll create a customer that becomes a customer for life, a client for life, and somebody that hopefully is a raving fan of what it is that you do and how it is that you serve the world. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and go to the whiteboard and dive right in to our content. Remember last week I had an issue with the whiteboard. Boom, I'm back. And I obviously got that worked out. Okay. So I was like, oh, well, I want to use it. I got it worked out. So let's first start with a couple of different ideas. And then I want to go through what I call the 3 chapters of client interaction, because these 3 chapters or phases of client interaction is where your perpetual marketing and growth comes from for your business. The first maybe definition to take a moment and make sure that we're all on the same page with is that every one of us is actually in 2 businesses. We are not in one business. I am not in the business of book publishing or book ghostwriting or book launches or PR and media. Yes, that is a business, and that is in essence my core business. But the business that I am in as well, that perhaps is just as important, is I am in the business of letting other people know the business that I'm in. I'm in the business of evangelizing. I am in the business of spreading the message of bestseller publishing. And that is a very, very important message, because without that message being spread, then I am not able to serve my clients. I'm not able to serve the purpose of the business itself. That's really, really important, because if you're asked what business you're in, 99 times out of 100, you're going to answer whatever your expertise is, whatever it is that you do, what the book that you wrote, the expertise that you have, etc. However, if you miss out on the function of your goal, your purpose, your other business being to be the mouthpiece, to be the marketer, to be the one that is spreading the message of how you serve the world, then, if you're not doing it, I don't know who is going to do it for you. You can always try to hire that, but I have always found that hiring it out is a very, very difficult task. So understand first and foremost, this idea of perpetual marketing and growth. And I specifically titled it that way because I knew that for some people that may be a bit of a turnoff, because some people don't like the idea of perpetually marketing. However, to perpetually market is to perpetually grow. And I want to show 3 different ways within your client interaction that you can do this. So first and foremost, we understand this is part of our business. This is part of our job description. However, this is where it all comes in to our business. And these are what I call the 3 chapters of client interaction. This is something that I learned, by the way. I always want to give credit where credit is due. This is something I learned when I owned my real estate companies. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Joe Stumpf. Some of you may have heard of Dean Jackson. First time I met Dean Jackson was in the early 2000s, before I even knew that there was an internet marketing world or space that Dean was a part of. Dean actually worked directly with Joe Stumpf. Joe has a company called By Referral Only, which basically teaches real estate brokers, real estate agents, mortgage consultants, et cetera, how to build a business that is a referral-based business. And so the first time I ever heard and understood this, and I'm going to explain it in my way, I'm going to explain it in the way that I think relates to your business, because your business is not necessarily real estate. but the first I heard it was in real estate. And that our three chapters, if you will, of client interaction are best described as the before chapter, the during chapter, and the after chapter. Okay. Now, the before chapter is everything that happens to introduce you to a new prospective client. This is, your book. This is the marketing that you do, driving people to your book. This is the time that someone is reading your book because they've not become a client yet. This is where you are building the know, like, and trust so that someone can actually become a client of yours. And there's 100 different ways to do that. Now, I'm going to take some time and I'm going to dive deeper into the before, the during, and the after chapters, okay? But I want to give you at least an idea and a definition. So the before is everything that happens from that initial interaction where they're just now for the first time learning that you exist in this world, that there is a solution to whatever problem they have, all the way up until the time that they pay you money and become a client. When they do that, that becomes the during chapter. That is the time in which you are delivering your magic to your customer. For someone in bestseller publishing, it would be when you're going through the book writing coaching program, or when you're working directly with a ghostwriter. It might be when we're in the process of publishing the book or doing the book marketing or doing your media and PR. There's a process. For some of you, that process is short. It might only be 30 or 60 days. For some of you, it might be much longer, right? Our interactions with our BSP clients tend to be on the light side, maybe 3 to 6 months, and some can go as long as 2 years. So that becomes a bit of a challenge for us, because during chapter is the time at which your customer experience is really important. Now, things can go wrong, by the way, often in the customer experience, but how you surprise and delight your customer while you're in this serving mode can often be the difference between that person being a lifetime client or that person simply coming and going in a transactional type of way. So that is the during chapter. And then the after chapter, obviously, is everything that happens after you finish serving that client, meaning how you're keeping in touch with that client, what you're doing to maintain the relationship, how you're even continuing to serve and deliver content after that person has stopped paying you. So the after phase is the phase at which you can maybe get referrals, or that person can come back to you to do that service again. That might be for bestseller publishing, someone doing book number 2 or book number 3, or simply paying us for additional PR or media, etc. So these are the 3 chapters that encompass the entire life cycle of working with a customer. They've never met you before. They didn't even know you exist, all the way to the point of becoming a client. That's the before chapter. The during chapter is just that moment in time, which could be a very short period, all the way up to a number of years, that you're actually working with that client to deliver your magic to them. And then the after unit is, as soon as that work is done and completed and your contractual obligation is over, everything from that point moving forward. Now, they could come back into the during chapter if they decide to pay you again and get additional services from you. However, at the moment, we're just going to look at it as the after chapter, meaning everything that happens after you serve them. Okay. So that is very simply our definition. Now, I want to take a few minutes and I want to dive deep, because this idea of perpetual marketing and growth means that we want to do some great things in every single one of these phases. Now, I talk a lot with you about the before unit. I spend a lot of time sharing about the ways in the before unit that you can, use your book to build authority and credibility, get people to know, like, and trust you before they've ever met you or had a conversation, because you're using your best-selling book to build that great foundation. So I spend a lot of time sharing how you can use your book in this before chapter. However, I don't spend a lot of time talking about the during and the after. And so I want to take some time over the next few minutes sharing about all three of these chapters or phases. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's get a clean sheet for a moment and then let's dive in. Let's talk for a few moments about this before chapter. The before chapter is where you need to focus, and I'm going to give you a couple of different things to do and to be thinking about. But this is where you focus on your marketing plan, your marketing plan. Now, you may recall in our publish, promote, profit, the profit section is really all about you using your book to get in front of people in this before chapter, right? I share about using your book in three specific ways: using your book to get speaking engagements, using your book to get media and PR, and using your book to generate leads. Those three things are all focused on this before chapter. These people don't know who you are. They've never met you before. You are introducing yourself to them and your solution to their problem. So what I always challenge my clients to do, and what I'm going to share briefly, and of course I do on a weekly basis, usually talk about one or more of these elements, you must have some type of marketing plan and system in place to use your book on a continual basis, perpetually, in this before chapter. Now, that could be, you choosing speaking engagements. And someone like Amy Dix is a great example. For those of you that were in the challenge, we shared about how Amy got 97 different speaking engagements over a period of 18 months. And you know what? She filled her business. She filled her clients up just using that one thing as a marketing plan. Fine. You don't have to worry about media and PR. You don't have to worry about maybe online lead generation or direct mail or any of those other things that maybe seem complicated or difficult. You choose one thing, that becomes your marketing plan. You go deep with it and you make it successful. Okay. So we first start with a marketing plan, and we start with a marketing plan for your book that thinks about those three things. Again, speaking, PR, and lead generation. Okay. One of those three things. And this is what I want you, when you're putting your marketing plan together. I want to make sure I have enough room here. I think I do. When you're putting your marketing plan together, this is what I want you to consider and think about on a regular basis. There are three tiers to understanding and developing a marketing plan that's going to be successful. Number one, there is your market itself. Okay. Your market is all about your target. Okay. That's your target. Okay. When we talk about your book, when we talk about the specifics of your book, I'm always asking you, make sure you know who your reader is. Make sure you know who your target client is. You want to speak to that person. That is your market. That is the market piece of your marketing plan. The next step from there is your message to that market. Your message to that market. Your message is, how are you going to be communicating with your market on a regular basis to get their attention? Now, since you have a book, you're going to let your book do the communicating. However, you have to first get people interested in your book. So I've shared a lot in the past about using free plus shipping funnels, right? Communicating with my ideal market. These are people who want to write a book, people who want to launch a book, people who want to grow their audience, who want to make a bigger impact. So I talk a lot about my messaging to that audience is very, very geared and specific to business owners. It's geared and specific to those that will resonate with what I'm trying to say to that market. I don't speak a great deal. I do a little bit, but not a great deal to people that are writing the next great American novel, right? Or writing the next War and Peace. Typically, I'm speaking to people that are business owners, and my messaging has to resonate with them. Your messaging also has to resonate really specifically with your market. And then last but not least is the media. The media is all about the channel that you choose, the channel to communicate with your audience. What channel do I choose? Well, I choose a lot of online marketing, right? I do a lot of Facebook, a lot of Instagram, YouTube. I'm doing more and more LinkedIn, which that test is going exceptionally well. I'll tell you more about that. But the media is not, don't just think of the media as television or radio. Think of the media as whatever channel you're going to use. Your media could be speaking engagements. Your media could be television. It could be radio. But there has to be a media where your ideal market, your target market is on that media and will resonate with your message. All of this takes place in this before chapter. This is what you need to be thinking about as you're developing your marketing plan. You need to choose. And to begin, you just choose one. I want to focus on speaking. I want to focus on lead generation, and I'm going to do that by running my own challenge. Fantastic. I'm going to focus on PR and media, and I believe that my ideal clients are on these various podcasts. So I'm going to focus on using my book to get on these podcasts. That's a great free way to do it, right? So you start by thinking market, message, media. What is my marketing plan? And you focus deep on that, because this is where you are introduced to your ideal client, and this is where they develop the know, like, and trust to grow. Okay. So that's part one. That's the before chapter. And I see there are a bunch of questions coming through. I'm going to run through all of this, and then I'll come back and I'll answer your questions. The next chapter is, whoops, I didn't want red. The next chapter is the during chapter, the during chapter. Now, the during chapter is the point at which you've already gained a customer. They've already paid you for whatever service you are going to be providing. However, this is an opportunity to win a customer for life, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We want a raving fan, not just a transaction. We want a raving fan that will refer us business, that will come back and do more business with us, that will be a fellow evangelist of the business. And if we do the right things along the way, then we'll be able to have that type of relationship. Now, look, in whatever business you're in, you're going to have challenges, right? Things aren't always going to go as planned. They don't with us, right? Sometimes the first edit comes back terrible, and we have to re-edit and rework it. People maybe lose confidence or lose faith. That stuff happens. It will happen to you. It happens to us. It happens to everybody. How you respond to that is going to make or break this during chapter for a client. So what are the kind of key components of this? Let me give you a few of them. Number one is, this is what we want. How do we get that? Number two, think in terms of service. Think in terms of service. When somebody comes on as a client, they're coming on as a client with a specific deliverable that you're going to be giving them. Again, you know what our deliverable is. If someone wants their book published, then they want certain things done right, the formatting, the cover design, the publishing of it. They want the book launched. All of those things are part of our normal service delivery, right? However, there's always 2 or 3 layers below this. In other words, it's not just that they want their book published, right? It's not just that you want your book published. You want your book to do something for you. So you have to think in terms of, what are really the underlying motivations that are bringing people to me? And if there's a way that I can also serve somebody and benefit them, help them to reach their really underlying motivation, then I am going to create somebody that, yes, I delivered what I said I would deliver, but more than that, I went above and beyond and served them in a great way. Now, you've probably read or heard about number 3, and there's a great book called The 5 Love Languages. And, all of us have different types of love languages. And because we're all different, and I'm not going to spell out each one of them. I'm just going to use 1 or 2 as an example. Think in terms of this during experience to be a time where you can surprise and delight your ideal client, right? Surprise and delight. How might you do that? Well, if their love language was gifts and you sent them a gift, right? I asked in our Facebook group, for those of you who got my Publish, Promote, Profit book, if you would just take a picture with it and send me that picture back because I want to use you in an ad and that kind of thing. So a bunch of you did that, and I'm grateful. Thank you for doing that. But one of you, and I don't remember who it was, I think it might have been Mark, but one of you took a picture of the gift that I sent, which is I have the black client only edition of Publish, Promote, Profit that goes out to our done for you clients. And he took a picture of that. And, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'm glad he did that. It also reminded me, that whether you thought that was a really cool thing or not, and whether you got it or not, fantastic. But if your love language is gifts and you got something that was completely unexpected from somebody that is serving you, that is going to make you feel like, wow, they're going above and beyond. Words of affirmation are another love language. In other words, great communication on an ongoing basis. If you can, and I just wrote S&D, but that's if you can surprise and delight your ideal client during this during chapter, then you will have people that care a great deal about your business. Last but not least, during this time, you want to get feedback from people. We have Bob, our client experience manager, and this is kind of a newer thing the last year or so that we've been doing. But I always ask Bob, look, as somebody is going through the various steps, I want to hear the good, the bad, everything. Now, obviously, I'm really hoping to hear a lot more good than bad, but I want to know, where can we improve? Where can we do better? And your feedback to Bob has helped us to make some pretty crucial changes that were like ongoing sticking points within our business. So we hope that because of the feedback and because of the changes and adjustments we're able to make, we'll be able to deliver a more powerful and amazing experience, which leads to you or leads to your customer becoming the raving fan that you want. This is your opportunity. This is your only opportunity to do that. And that is during this chapter. Okay. That's number 2. Let's go to number 3, which is the after. And then I see there are a bunch of people commenting and questions. So I'll go back and we'll answer those questions. So last but not least is the after chapter. The after chapter is you're done serving, you've fulfilled your obligation, you've given them what they've paid for, you've delivered, hopefully you've surprised and delighted them as well. Now, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to do a couple of things. Number one, we want to be on top of mind, okay? What I have found is that when somebody decides to write a book, it's an interesting thing. They find out about all these other people that want to write a book. When you're serving somebody and right at that moment, you're at the top of their mind because you're serving them and helping them to resolve something or receive something or make a change of some kind, you're at the top of their mind. So they start seeing all these other people that have this need. Well, now once the during chapter is over, you're no longer top of mind. So we need a strategy to stay top of mind, or at least as much as possible. So how do we do that? Well, we want to use the tools that we have. We want to use email. What do you send an email? Well, certainly not a junky newsletter, right? Some kind of standard pat newsletter. We've built a relationship. Now we want to continue that relationship by communicating in a more, in a different tone than you would communicate with someone who's not paid you any money, right? How else do we do it? Content. One of the reasons that I allow my done for you clients to remain in BSPU forever is because I want to continue delivering content to you so that I can stay top of mind and so that I can continue helping you. We do have clients that refer us business sometimes years after. I got a referral today from a client that I haven't worked with in 3 or 4 years. If the content that I'm giving and I'm not getting paid $97 a month for, or $200 or whatever, but if the content that I'm delivering tomorrow, next week, next year will serve you at that time and help you, then I'll stay at the top of your mind for the services that I provide. So finding a way to continue to deliver valuable content after you've already served somebody, really, really powerful. How do you also deliver it? Well, direct mail is a really cool way to keep that relationship going. Direct mail might be for things like gifts, or it could be newsletters or other things. But if you deliver something, and this is something new that we're going to be doing, if you deliver something to someone's mailbox, and it could be just a small trinket or some type of reminder, then that helps you to stay top of mind as well. Okay. Now there's 3 or 4 other things that I can share, but all of this leads back to the same idea. And that is, of these 3 units, the before unit is something that I speak about on a regular basis. And that is how to use your book to get people to know, like, and trust you. However, the during chapter and the after chapter are things that you're going to have to embrace. How can you surprise and delight your ideal client? And how can you remain top of mind to that client that has paid you money so that they'll refer business, they'll want to work with you for the new things that you're doing, or the things that you did for me, book number 2, book number 3, more PR, more media, whatever, a way that, can continue to serve them because they've had such a wonderful experience. All 3 of these phases must be done, at least in a way that if not excellent, is at least on your mind, that you're developing a plan for each one of these 3 chapters. If you're not developing a plan for each one of these 3 chapters and just focused on one of them, then your business is going to lack. This is how you have a perpetual marketing and growth machine in your business. Statistically, and I'll leave it with this and then we'll go to the questions. Statistically, the hardest thing you will do is get a new customer. That's the most expensive thing you'll do and the hardest thing you'll do. I spend a lot of time sharing great ways to get new customers with your book. However, if you focus on the during chapter and the after chapter as well, then you'll see the number of new clients coming to you because of referrals, because of that transfer of trust, will grow exponentially. Every new client will lead to 2 or 3 or 4 other new clients in the years to come. And that's really what we want. We want a long-term relationship after all.